I said I would do a compilation of all of the BG3 companions of the Hall builds, and here it is. Couple of quick announcements here. One is that this contains an updated Drizzt build. If you want to see the original, no problem, the link will be in the description below. And as always, I am going to put a disclaimer here that all of these builds do deviate from any official ones that are out there, because the official ones are based on D&D 5th edition, and although BG3 is built on those rules, it differs in quite a few ways, so I am restricted to the confines of what the game can support. With that out of the way, let's get started. This is an updated version of the Drizzt build. After receiving a lot of feedback, and some of it really good, regarding my original, I figured it was time for an update. Please note a couple things that you won't see here on this page is that you should be choosing Outlander for the background, which will give you skill proficiencies in athletics and acrobatics. Let's get started. We're going to start off with the fighter class. This was not included in the original build, but there was a lot of feedback about it, and I agree with that feedback. So we're going to start as a fighter. Fighting style is going to be 2-weapon fighting, which makes sense. Drizzt was regularly using 2 scimitars. For his ability points, it will be here as shown: 10 in strength, 17 in dexterity, 14 in constitution, 10 in intelligence, wisdom of 14, charisma of 10, so keeping everything out of the negatives. Dexterity is uneven here with the +2 bringing it up to a 17, but we will be bringing this to an 18 later in the build. Under skill proficiencies, as you'll see, you get athletics and acrobatics from the background. You also get perception from the race. For the 2 additionals, I recommend putting more into acrobatics and then the rest under insight. For level 2, we will continue as a fighter, unlocking that helpful action surge. Level 3, we will also continue as a fighter so that we gain access to the first subclass we're going to take, which will be Battle Master. I believe that the tactical superiority of this class is appropriate for Drizzt's character and the official battle training he went through. For the maneuvers, we are going to go with Disarming Attack, Evasive Footwork, and Feinting Attack. Those seem to be in the best alignment with his fighting style. Level 4, we will keep as fighter and get access to our first feat, which is going to be Athlete, which allows us to raise that dexterity score to 18, which is what we wanted, but it also gives us the bonuses of standing up using significantly less movement from prone and increasing the jump distance by 50%. Level 5, we will stay in fighter because we want to unlock that extra attack, very important for the build. Level 6, we're going to go a little off script in terms of what Drizzt technically is according to the lore, and we're going to put him into rogue. This is because even though he is not a rogue technically, a lot of his fighting styles are rogue-like. We'll continue with rogue a little bit longer. We're unlocking the bonus actions of hide, dash, and disengage. And one more level in rogue to unlock the next subclass. We're going to go with thief, not because he is a thief, but because we want that additional bonus action. It also has second story work, gaining resistance to falling damage, so helpful. Now we're going to go back to the lore and we're going to multi-class into ranger. For favorite enemy, we're going to go with Magebreaker. You have a history of battling spellcasters, you gain proficiency in Arcana, and can cast True Strike. This is appropriate due to his nemesis Artemis and Triri. For Natural Explorer, we're going to go with Wasteland Wanderer Cold because of how long he stayed in Icewind Dale. Level 10, we're going to stay in Ranger. That does mean we'll have to choose a couple spells. Now, Drizzt is not a spellcaster, but we do have a couple functional options here. So we will go with Longstrider and Hunter's Mark. For fighting style, we already have 2-weapon fighting selected from being a fighter. However, he was also known to use a bow, so we'll go with Archery. Level 11, we're staying in Ranger because we want to unlock that next subclass. We do have to choose another spell here, though. Couple of options here for functionality, and it's really up to you which one you choose. You could go with Animal Friendship, Enhanced Leap, or Speak with Animals. Now, Speak with Animals isn't really accurate in terms of lore, but the reason I bring it up is because it is a really handy spell to have in this game. So if you don't have another character within your group that can do this, you may just want to give it to Drizzt. I'm going to go with Animal Friendship, which I believe is representative of his kinship with Guinevere. For subclass, we're going to go with Gloomstalker. This seems to be the most appropriate, and it unlocks a really handy feature, which is Dread Ambusher. You gain a +3 bonus to initiative, and on the first turn of combat, you get a movement speed increase of 3 meters, and you can make an attack that deals an additional 1d8 damage. The superior dark vision is redundant, but we don't really care, as is the hide bonus action, but we also get Umbral Shroud. This also unlocks the spell Disguise Self, which I know some people don't really agree with in regards to Drizzt using a spell like this, but let's keep in mind that despite him not liking the mask that he used, he did have to use it, and he did get rid of it pretty quickly thereafter, giving it away to Regis. Now, when you get to level 12, it's really up to you how you button up this build. Whether you decide to put your final level in Ranger, Fighter, or in Rogue, there's barely a difference. The only difference is that Rogue nets you 1 less health point. But either way, you're getting that final feat. So I'm just going to go with Ranger because that's what he currently is. And for the final feat, I recommend Savage Attacker. Savage Attacker gives you, when you're making melee attacks, roll your damage die twice and use the highest result. Since this build is focused on getting as many attacks in as possible each round, this is probably your best bet. And that will do it for the updated Drizzt build. Because this is an update though, I'm going to give you a few quick bonus items in regards to what weaponry he should use. There are 2 scimitars in-game that I recommend getting for Drizzt. One is the Adamantine Scimitar, which can be created with a mold in Grimforge in Act 1. The other you'll have to wait for. It's Jaheira's scimitar, but not the ones that she comes with when you first meet her, but the one back at her house in Act 3, and it's called Belm, and is the only legendary scimitar in the game. We're going to choose Dwarf for the race. Now, the sub-race is the first thing that is going to vary from the official build. In the official build, Bruenor is a mountain dwarf, which does not exist within BG3. The equivalent would be the shield dwarf. However, it is not beneficial to make Bruenor a shield dwarf within BG3. The reason being that the subrace feature of dwarven armor training is giving you the same proficiencies that you're going to get from the fighter class, which is what he is. So you're actually better off going with the gold dwarf so that you can at least get the benefit of dwarven toughness, maximizing your hit points. Next, we're going to choose the class of fighter, and that is his official class as of 5th edition. We're not going to change that. For fighting style, we're going to do defense, which gives you a +1 bonus to armor class while wearing armor. Now for background, I couldn't actually find this on the official build, but what I think makes the most sense here is Outlander. For one thing, it's fitting because he grew up in the harsh conditions of Icewind Dale, so he would have to have some pretty good survival skills to flourish in a location like that. And having the skills of athletics and survival, I think, is really helpful and appropriate for this build, so I'm going to go with Outlander. And now with ability points, that's where things really start to differ. You can't use the ability points that are in the D&D Beyond build because BG3 doesn't work the same way with ability stat. You can only bring up an ability to a maximum of 15 points, and then from there you could use your +1 or your +2 bonus. In addition, you cannot use the +2 and the +1 on the same ability. They have to be used on different abilities. We're also a bit limited here in getting Bruenor to 20 strength because we are capped at level 12. The official Bruenor build on D&D Beyond has him at level 16. So just keep in mind that these ability points are going to look very, very different. The easiest way to do it is to clear it all out first. Your +2 is going to stay under strength, and you're going to bring this up to 17. Dexterity, you'll bring up to 12. Constitution, you'll keep the +1 there and bring it up to 15. Intelligence, 10. Wisdom, 11. Charisma, 10. Again, this looks very, very different from the official build, but we're working with what we have. Under skill proficiencies, don't have to change anything here. Athletics, acrobatics, survival, intimidation, these are all fitting for the build. They are good to go. Like I went over in the basic section, fighter is the class, fighting style is defense, and the ability points are as such, as well as the skill proficiencies. So nothing to change there. Let's move on. Now at level 2 fighter, there is nothing you need to do. The gains are automatic, your health increases, and you get action surge, which is very handy. At level 3, this is when you choose your subclass. The subclass for Bruenor, and this is official, is Battle Master. so he gets access to maneuvers, and you get to choose your first 3. Now, a note on maneuvers here. Several of the maneuvers that are on Bruenor's official build, which are Commanding Presence, Bait and Switch, and Grappling Strike, are not available in BG3. You can see the full list of them here. So we are going to be replacing some of those. But to start with, we are going to do Menacing Attack, Precision Attack, and Riposte. And these are part of the official build. At level 4, we are going to get our first feat. And this is where we're going to try to even out some of those scores now. So for our first feat, we are going to choose Ability Improvement, and we are going to choose +2 to Strength. And yes, that does still leave us at an odd number. Bear with me here. We're going to fix that. Level 5 for Fighter, again, no options. Everything is automatic. You do now unlock your extra attack. Another very handy thing to have. And the nice thing with fighters is that they get yet another feat at level 6. So this is when we're going to go in and even things out. We're going to do ability improvement again, and this time we're going to do a +1 to Strength and a +1 to Constitution. That way we are getting the full benefit from those 2 scores, and Wisdom is just going to have to hang out at an odd number. And at level 7, it is time to choose 2 more maneuvers. As with before, we can still go for some official choices here of Trip Attack and Fainting Attack. Level 8, it's time for a feat again. That's the wonderful thing about fighters. So now that we have evened out the majority of our scores, we're going to start accruing some feats that are more applicable to the character. And we're going to start with Sentinel, and you will find this on his official build. Level 9, no options here, just some automatic unlockings, and the class feature is Indomitable. So as it says, you've become as durable as an iron golem. So whenever you fail a saving throw, you can roll again using the new result instead. And this can become really clutch, because dwarves already have Dwarven Resilience. They have advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance against poison damage. So not only do you have advantage, so you're throwing twice on your saving throws against poison, but now you can roll it yet again if you fail that saving throw. So you actually could roll up to 3 times on a saving throw against poison. That's pretty awesome. For level 10, time to take more of those fancy maneuvers, and you also unlock improved combat superiority, meaning that you now have a superiority dice that increases to 1d10. All right, and here's where we have to start going a little bit off the books here. We're gonna do Maneuvering Attack, which is on there, but we don't have access to the rest of them, so we're gonna do Sweeping Attack. I personally like Sweeping Attack because it gives the fighter some AoE. At level 11, nothing to do here, just another class feature unlock. Improved Extra Attack. You can make 2 additional attacks after attacking with your main hand weapon. Again, a little roguelike here. And now at level 12, we are choosing our final feat, and this is where we cap off. BG3 is capped at level 12, so this is the last of it. We are going to go with the official choice here of Lucky. I'm assuming that the official build has Lucky down, not just because it is just a useful feat, but also because Bruenor has had some pretty supreme luck during some of his battles. Getting started, we know that Wulfgar is a human, and starting as a barbarian. He is a barbarian fighter split, however. His background is Outlander, unlocking skill proficiencies in athletics and survival. And now when we get down to abilities, this is where things are going to really look different. Keeping in mind that the official build for Wulfgar takes him all the way to level 20, and we are limited to 12 levels. Also, that in BG3, the highest that you can get a stat initially is 15, and then you need to use your +2 or your +1 bonus to bring it any higher than that. So things are going to look quite different. So we'll just clear this out, and we're going to start with 17 for Strength, 10 for Dex, 16 for Con. We'll keep Intelligence at 8, Wisdom of 12, and Charisma of 11. And yes, I know there are 2 odd numbers there. We will be correcting that later on, using the ability score improvement feat. Now, under skill proficiencies, I recommend keeping what comes with his class, but changing what comes from race. Normally it's persuasion. I would change this to animal handling. It just fits a little bit better with his official build. All right, now for the build, I'm going to be using the hireling from Withers, who is normally a human rogue, but close enough for our purposes. Starting off with Barbarian. Barbarian level 1, we already did. Barbarian level 2, there's nothing to change here. You're just unlocking your class feature of Danger Sense. You have advantage on dex saving throws against trap spells and surfaces, and Reckless Attack. So until your next turn, you have advantage on attack rolls, but enemies also have advantage against you. Level 3 Barbarian is where you choose your subclass. Now, in D&D, the subclass is known as Totem Spirit, but the BG3 equivalent is Wild Heart. So that's what we're going to use. And for Bestial Heart, we're going to follow suit with what they did with Totem Spirit, and we're going to go with Bear Heart. Bear Heart is unlocking your Rage, and you also get Unrelenting Ferocity, so you can heal yourself as an action. At level 4 Barbarian, you can change your Bestial Heart if you like, and I believe you can continue to change it throughout your Barbarian levels, but I don't find it necessary for this build. I would just stick to Bear, but you can change it up if you want to. You're also going to be choosing your first feat here, and we're going to do ability score improvement so that we can level out those scores as soon as possible, bringing our strength up to 18, and our charisma up to 12. Level 5, nothing for us to do here unless we want to change that Bestial Heart. We are unlocking the extra attack though, and fast movement. At level 6, it's time to choose our animal aspect. And we're going to choose the same thing that's in the official build, which is Aspect of the Beast Eagle. And basically this is giving you dark vision, which, considering that Wulfgar is a human, is pretty handy. Also gives you advantage on perception checks. Level 7, nothing for us to do here. We are unlocking Feral Instinct as the class feature. So you have a +3 bonus to initiative and can't be surprised. That's pretty handy because there's actually a feat called Alert that will give you a plus to your initiative and make it so that you can't be surprised. Now, I believe the Alert feat gives you a +5 bonus versus a +3, but you're still almost getting the same thing just via your class. Now, level 8 is the last level we're going to take in Barbarian. We're going to be switching to Fighter after this, but we do want to get that feat in, and we're going to take another ability score improvement here and bring that Constitution up to 18. In the official build, Strength is 20 and Con is 20. Not going to happen here in BG3 without sacrificing some other things, but I think 18 is pretty reasonable. Now at level 9, we're going to switch over to the fighter class, and fighting style will be great weapon fighting. At level 2, nothing to do here, but you do unlock Action Surge for an additional attack. Now at fighter level 3, it's time to choose your subclass, and we're going to go with the official build, which is Champion. It's a little bit dull in my opinion, but that is what he is officially. And what it unlocks is improved critical hit. The number you need to roll for a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack. And then at the final level, level 12, just need to choose the last feat here. And we will go with the official choice of Sentinel, which unlocks a couple class features here. When an enemy within melee range attacks an ally, you can use a reaction to make a melee attack against them, and you gain advantage on opportunity attacks. And when you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, it can no longer move for the rest of the turn. So those are pretty handy. Getting the basics out of the way, then we know that Catti-brie is a human. We're going to start her class as Fighter, as per the official build. Fighting style is going to be Archery. Background is Outlander, which will give her proficiency in Athletics and Survival. And then the ability scores are where things always get a bit wonky, and they will here as well. So bear with me. Some of the scores will get increased later on using ability score improvement. The ability scores here are not going to look anything like they do on the official build because of the confines we're working within. We can only get this character up to level 12 total, and we can only bring any of our stats up to a 15-point mark. Anything beyond that, we need to use our +2 or our +1 bonus, and then later on ability score improvement or resilient. So we're going to clear everything out here, and we are going to move our +2 and our +1 around. We're going to keep strength at 8, and yes, she is a fighter, but we're going for a dexterity fighter build, which is what you will see on the official build as well. So dexterity is going to be bumped up to 16, constitution 15, Intelligence 14, Wisdom 12, and Charisma of 10. The reason that you see an uneven Constitution score there is we are going to fix that later. Under skill proficiencies, we are going to switch the Intimidation proficiency over to Animal Handling, which is in more alignment with the official build and the character. We'll keep the one that's in Acrobatics though. All right, starting at Fighter level 2, there's nothing we have to do here. You're just unlocking your Action Surge, so we'll move on to Fighter level 3. At Fighter level 3, it's time to choose your subclass. Now, the subclass that she is officially in D&D Beyond is called Arcane Archer, which does not exist within BG3. The closest we can get to that really is Eldritch Knight. However, by picking Eldritch Knight, you do have to grab some cantrips and spells that may not seem very realistic for Catti-brie at level 3. So we're pushing the boundaries a little bit here, but again, working within the confines available. So for the cantrips, we're going to grab Blade Ward, which is just a utility spell, and Light as well. Now, Light is kind of important early on for Catti-brie's build because she's a human, so she does not have dark vision. It's going to be really helpful when you get to the Underdark. You can always respec her later and get rid of this if you want to later on give her dark vision, which is a 2nd level spell. Okay, and then for the spell slots, really hard to avoid an offensive spell here because the only utility spells we have access to are Mage Armor, which is completely useless for her, Protection from Evil and Good, and Shield. Now, we're going to take Shield. There's some viability to that choice. Not really a big fan of Protection of Evil and Good just because of its limitations. And we do know that she learns Magic Missile early on. She actually accidentally casts Magic Missile with a wand given to her before she even starts her training. So I'm going to grab Magic Missile for this. It's a little bit of a stretch, but bear with me. And then under the expanded spell list, we're going to go for utility again. We're going to start with Long Strider. And then at Fighter level 4, it's time to choose one more spell and our first feat. So that spell list continues to get pretty narrow here. And what we have for utility just doesn't really make sense. So we're going to grab Burning Hands. We do know from the description and the official build that she kind of has an affinity for fire. So we're just going to go with Burning Hands. And then for the first feat, the first thing we want to do is even out that con score of 15. So we're going to take Resilient and put it in con. That's going to boost the score by 1, getting us to a 16. And it's going to give her proficiency in that ability's saving throws. Now, we could do an ability score improvement here and have 2 points available to us, but I don't feel like it's necessary to have scores uneven unless you're going to do something later on to boost them again. And that's not the plan with this build, so we're just using Resilient instead. With Fighter level 5, nothing we need to do here, just unlocking that extra attack. So we'll move on to level 6. Now, fighters at level 6 get an additional feat, which is really nice and a good reason to do a 6-6 split with her character. So this time we're going to go in and we're going to grab Magic Initiate Druid, which sounds a little bit weird. 2 reasons for it. One is because Arcane Archer gave her access to Druidcraft. Now, BG3 doesn't really have one stand-in for Druidcraft. It has some things in it that are similar to some of the effects of Druidcraft, but not just one cantrip or one spell or something that kind of embodies it. This is really the only way to get her slightly into Druid without actually putting her class in Druid. So we'll do Magic Initiate Druid for that. The other reason is because you get access to these ritual spells, and we can give her Speak with Animals. Now, there's nothing in the official build that says she's got Speak with Animals, but it is a really, really, really helpful ritual spell to have. So we're going to do it mainly for the convenience of it. But if you wanted to change it to something else or change this feat choice entirely, that is, of course, up to you. And then for the additional cantrips, we're going to grab Guidance and Resistance. So just 2 more utility spells or cantrips available to us. And now at this point in Catti-brie's journey, if you will, she's now been trained as a wizard. So now she has access to all these additional spells. Now, as I said earlier, spell choices are going to deviate a bit from what is in the build because of the confines of BG3. So for the first 3 cantrips, we are going to go with Firebolt, Friends, and Shocking Grasp. For the first 6 spells, we're going to go with Featherfall, Find Familiar, Chromatic Orb, Thunderwave, Sleep, and Expeditious Retreat. So a couple utility spells mixed in there. Chromatic Orb and Thunderwave are on her official build. Okay, moving on to level 2 wizard. Now it's time to choose the subclass. We're just going to go with the official one here, which is evocation. Makes the most sense. And then for our 2 additional spells at level 2, we're going to go with Ice Knife and Witch Bolt. These spells are not on the official build, but they are elemental abilities, and she does later on get Lightning Bolt. So Witch Bolt is kind of like the mini version of that. Level 3, time to choose 2 more spells, and now we unlock access to level 2 spells. So we're going to grab Misty Step and Scorching Ray. Again, not on the official build, but Misty Step is just very critical in this game. Being able to get around the battlefield is just such an important part of the combat mechanics. And then Scorching Ray, because again, she has that affinity for fire. It's an elemental spell, just kind of fits in. Okay, at level 4, it's time to choose another cantrip, 2 more spells, and our final feat. For the cantrip, nothing available here fits the official build, so we're just going to go with another elemental spell of Ray of Frost. For the 2 spell slots, we're going to choose one that is on the official build and one that isn't, but is still kind of in alignment with the overall theme. So Gust of Wind is on the official build. Flaming Sphere is not, but we don't quite have access to Fireball yet. And again, we're kind of going with that affinity for fire, so that's going to be our stand-in right now. And then for our feat, we're going to go over to ability score improvement, and we're going to boost that intelligence up to 16, which is where we really wanted it from the get-go. But again, limitations, so now we're getting to that. And then at level 5 wizard, it's time to take 2 more spells. These 2 spells are on the official build. There's Fireball, and then there's also Haste. Both are pretty handy spells. And now at the final level, wizard level 6, we got to take 2 more spells. One of them is official, one of them is not. I mentioned earlier that she gets access to Lightning Bolt, so we're going to keep that in the build. Nothing else fits here, though. Nothing else that we're seeing available here is actually on her official build, so it's kind of dealer's choice here. You can grab whatever you want, whatever you think is the most handy for the way you want to play, or whatever you feel is the closest to the lore for her. I'm personally going to grab Counterspell. It is just a handy utility spell. That's what I'm going to go with, but dealer's choice on this one. Regis was a halfling. We're going to go subrace Lightfoot halfling. These are the halflings that focus on stealth, which is what we want for his build. This is going to be a multi-class build, but we're going to start with Bard. Now, for any of the magic that we have in this build, we're going to keep it mostly functional. So for cantrips, we're going to start with Light and Mage Hand. Starting spells are going to be Healing Word, Disguise Self, Featherfall, and Long Strider. Starting instrument is dealer's choice. Whatever you want here, there's no real history of Regis playing a particular instrument, so pick whatever you want. For background, we're going to go with Urchin. This is going to open up the sleight of hand and stealth skills for us. Ability points are going to be 10 in strength, 16 in dexterity with that +1 modifier, 14 in constitution, 10 in intelligence, 8 in wisdom, and 16 in charisma with the +2 modifier. Because we are doing a multi-class build here, we need high dex and high charisma. And then for skill proficiencies, we're going to change a few things here. You'll see we have the sleight of hand and the stealth from the background, but instead of performance and persuasion, we want perception and investigation. We'll keep deception. For the build, we're going to be using the hireling, who happens to be a Lightfoot halfling, but does have a different background, so keep that in mind when we're looking at skills. For Bard level 2, the only thing we have to do is choose a new spell. Here I would say, keeping with functionality, either grabbing Fairy Fire or Speak with Animals. I'd say either one is okay here. They're both useful. I would go with Speak with Animals if you're not going to have another party with that ability, just for convenience sake. On to Bard level 3, and it's time to choose the subclass. We are going to be going with College of Lore, which you can see is selected there. You also have to choose another spell. In this case, we are going to be choosing level 2 invisibility. And in addition, on level 3, you also have to go in and select some skills. You see here skills with proficiency. So we have 3 slots to choose from here. We also have 2 skills with expertise slots to choose from. For expertise, we're going to go with investigation and deception. And for skill proficiencies, we're going to go with history, insight, and animal handling. On to level 4, there's a couple things we need to do here. One is choosing another cantrip. We're getting to the point in cantrips where the options are pretty limited here, and dancing lights, we don't need that. We already have regular light. Minor illusion is only so helpful, so we're actually going to go with vicious mockery here. Now it is a damage dealing spell, but it fits well with Regis's character, so we're making an exception. And then we need to choose another spell. We're going to go with another functional one. We're going to go with knock. And then it's time to choose our first feat. Now, the first feat that you're going to choose for this build is really dealer's choice at this point, but I am personally going to go with mobile. I think that works well for the build. Now, at this point in the build, we are going to multi-class over into rogue. And we're going to go into the skill proficiencies here, and you'll see it doubled up on a few areas. So we're going to change this up. I don't need that much in acrobatics. He really wasn't that acrobatic of a character. So take it out of acrobatics and put it into perception. And this one will stay in persuasion. Level 2 rogue, there's no choices to make here. We're just getting our cunning actions at this point. At level 3, it's time to choose a subclass. We are going to go with the thief subclass. Works well with the build. Second story will work. Fast hands, an additional bonus action. And Regis was indeed a thief. For level 4, it is time to choose another feat. And we are going to go with dual wielder. Now, the reason we're going to go with the dual wielding feat is because we want this character to use a light weapon and a heavy weapon. There are 2 weapons that Regis gets throughout his lore that I think makes sense to have him use together in this build. One of them would be the dagger that he stole from Artemis and Trary, and the other would be the mace that Bruenor makes for him. And I'll go over that in the bonus section. Now, the next couple levels of rogue, there are no choices to make. Level 5, 6, and 7, it's just unlocking other features. Now, at the final level of rogue, level 8, it is time to choose our final feat. For this one, we're going to go with ability improvement, and we're going to put an extra 2 under dexterity. I hope you found this compilation helpful. If you did, please drop a like, maybe a comment as well, and consider subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 500. Thanks for watching.